nowhere near acceptable, and nothing like what they told the city and what came down to us was totally different. So there's like three different budgets that she put
I
out
think when they're
there.
not people that work for the macro partnership, they're not from our community. I think they kind of like don't. If you're going to run a program like this, you need to take things seriously, and you got to really focus.
If the kids cannot ask questions about the workplace and how things are supposed.
Have the overseeing say who the program was. And
young men and women every day that just wish.
Hi, I'm Henry Harry. This is part 2 of our Tale from Oak Park and the implementation of the city's Summer Night Lights program. You should see a link on the screen to the first video. Community activists Reverend Odeye, Kevin Carter, and Rebecca Person complain that the Summer Night Lights program has been poorly implemented, is riddled with suspicious financial acts, and that too much money is going to the people at the top. They add that contrary to its goals, the program is actually fostering mistrust. Here in part 2, we focus on the comments and observations of Kevin Carter.
I'm a community activist, social justice activist, and was part of the Oak Park Summer Night Lights and helping to put together the program for the Oak Park community. My concerns right now is the accountability, the insufficiency as far as working with the leadership in our community, and the programs themselves have where our community has been shortchanged. The inconsistencies of how it was supposed to balance out for the programs and what will be used as far as for staffing and the other logistics to go along with the program. And like I said, trying to get clarity from it and how that budget was going to work. It was just a little bit too inconsistent before we could get to the actual launch date of the program, and also to make the commitments of what programs would be utilized. Well, the main part is when we actually got the committee together and we started doing the RFPs, which was getting the programs groups together, who would do what, and when we were talking about the budget and what their budget would have to be, we could never get a round figure or a number so that those people that were doing the RFPs would be able to put their budget together for that program for the weeks that they were going to be doing it. So it just consistently stayed inconsistent, and week after week, as we continue to come back to the table, we were never getting any answers.
Okay.
Well, the main way that I try to resolve is to have our committee, and some of those people that were on our committee would be some of those people that would be running the programs. I think that was the most important, is to have not just people on the committee that would just be on the committee just to be on the committee, but to be able to come there and make use of their time and their commitment on what they wanted to do in the program itself, so that our kids would have some substance, something to grow with. And not only that, it would last more than 2 months or a few weeks. This is something that they would be able to continue. What I'm saying? That was our main goal. How we would continue this, what I'm saying, at the same time as we lay the foundations to each program. And one of those programs in the beginning that I was looking at, since we live in a high-risk community, is to have a high-risk gang prevention program. Well, the program manager itself, when they were going through the selections, they couldn't find anybody to fit because of what the budget on that position was. At first, it was posted February 3rd, and it was posted at, I believe, $16 to $20 an hour. And then from there, it was, I believe they would make 2,800, I believe, a month in that, and 38,000 to 40,000 a year for the year. But when we received the next budget about the manager's position, it had been propped up to $26.50 an hour, and that this person would be making $53,000 for the year. And I just found that, very appalling, especially when it was the budget for that position was more than the program itself. In that process was to see that why would we give a program manager $53,000 for a year, and we would only invest $23,000 into the programs that we were going to be utilizing. I just felt like that was very appalling and misuse of funds when the money, the hire should have been towards the programs and invested into the community, because that's what the program is about, investing into the community so that the community could learn about policing one another and building off of one another a positive program. And that's not what was happening. I see it year after year and other programs to where people want to come through and do these programs, but all the money goes to the top and the less of the money goes to the bottom. And then the program ended up failing because the one at the top had most of the money. And that's exactly what this program is doing right now today, is taking care of people that are at the top, and the ones that are at the bottom that really want the program and want to utilize and make our community work, we're only minimized to how far we can go. And I just feel like that's very unjust. As before I left the steering committee, we had put together a hiring committee for those positions, not directly for the site manager position, but for the site supervisor and for the youth squads and the youth leaders. Now, I was on that committee, and on the committee that was for the site supervisor, I was the only one from the Oak Park community, I believe, that was on there. And even though the two pastors were on there also, but to me that didn't represent the community. And the reason why I say that is because they have churches here, but they don't have an impact, and influence with the community itself on making those decisions on who would be a good site supervisor for that, for our community. And like I said, there was 5 to 6 other people, and when we did the interviews and we came down to the last 2 people, we had one person from Tahoe Park and we had one person from Oak Park. And the person from Oak Park very well qualified. But as we went through the interviews and to go to make the selection, things were changed. And I brought the question up on the person that was supposed to be in this position is supposed to be someone from the community. Why do we have somebody that's outside the community? And then that's when they told me that Jenna made a mistake and said that it could be anybody. They didn't have to be from the community. And I felt like that's strange. They didn't do that on Mack Road the following year. They're not going to do that on Mack Road this year. Why are you doing it to Oak Park? And I just felt like it was wrong and should have been selected. But since I felt like I was the only one from the community on the board, on that selection committee, that our person was voted out so that they can have somebody that they can have in control. Like I said, I was, and me and Reverend Odeye was a part of the selection of those kids, but not only was I a part of the selection of those kids, I was part of the recruiting of those kids. And it was 14, 10 of those kids, 12, I'll take 10 kids and 2 youth leaders. I was responsible for the recruiting of those kids. And in the recruiting of those and in their interviews, they were not told that they would be going out to do any of these things. And in the questions itself, when these kids answered on their commitments to the programs, they gave honestly. And I felt like we were unjust to them because we didn't give it to them honestly, that they would be going out and working in the heat without water and without these necessities to get to these areas that the group now has planned for them to go out and do. I feel like it was morally and unjustly wrong. You do not send no kids out in 100-degree weather without water. You don't do it. I had to go across the street to Mr. Blackwell, Norman Blackwell Sr., who is a pillar in our community, who hands out food to the less fortunate on Wednesdays and Fridays in our community. I went over to him and asked him if he had any water, and he provided the water for the kids that day and the days to come. But the appalling part of this is, with a $200,000 budget, why wouldn't you have water for the kids if you were going to send them out to do this work, and knowing that it would be in 100-degree heat that they would be out there doing it? And at the end of the day, you tell them that it's not up to you to provide anything for them. Well, if they're there to work and they're working for you, then you are responsible. And that's how I feel right now today. And the people that are running the program, for them to make a decision like that, this was a common sense decision. When you are in 100-degree heat and kids are out there for more than 1 or 2 hours walking around handing out pamphlets in a community, in a neighborhood, and with no transportation. Kid-wise, I believe it was 12 or 10. My correction, 10 and 2 youth squad leaders. So you have 12 altogether.
12 people being employed to provide services to other youth. And how many left the program?
2 of the kids were terminated.
Okay.
They didn't leave on their own. They were terminated.
Right.
And they were terminated because they spoke up about what was going on, and if they were told, if they spoke up, that they would be reprimanded, and if they had too many reprimands, that they would be let go. And that's what it came down to at the end of the day. You have one employee that was pregnant, and she couldn't walk in the heat. It was too much for her. It was overbearing. So she was let go. The other person asked too many questions about what was going on financially with his income and what was going on with the rest of the program. So he was let go. So at the end of the day, if the kids cannot ask questions about the workplace and how things are supposed to work, and if things are not accordingly to that's working with them, especially going out in the heat and you're pregnant, then what is this we're doing? Is this about them, or is it about the people that are running the program?
Are you aware of concerns about timesheets being inaccurate or people not being paid for hours that they work?
Yes, I am. And my reason is because some of the kids have told me how the timesheet works. These hours are already allocated before they even know it. And at the end of the day, they have to sign a little piece of paper where the hours are, of this is what you did this day. But at the end of the day, to me, they should have time cards of their own. You know what I'm saying? To where they can see the days, the hours, and at the end of it, how many hours they worked in that week. That wasn't done.
I think you're saying this, but are you saying that kids complained that their timesheets reflected fewer hours than they actually worked?
Well, I'm not going to necessarily say the fewer hours, but I'm going to say what hours were accountable for them working from Wednesday to Saturday. Is Wednesday a free day that you come in and work, and then you get paid Thursday, Friday, and Saturday? And at the end of the day, when you get your paycheck and your paycheck shows the hours on the paycheck, and it doesn't account for some of the hours that you've been there, so like I said, it's a ball of confusion. It's a mix-up because it hasn't been properly explained, not only to me, but hasn't been explained to the kids of how it's supposed to work. Well, what needs to happen to move forward, you have to go backwards first. And you have to go back to how the program was laid out. The program was laid out only to be on the campus of our community center. But in our insight as a leadership in our community, our campus is bigger than that. It expands over to the park. There was programs that were left out. When we talk about the kids that skate at the skate park, when we talk about the kids that play softball, when we talk about the kids that play frisbee golf, that's an expansion. When we talk about the pillar in our community that plays Golden Senior softball, that wanted to put a program there for the Golden Seniors, one game a night, or every other night, or once a week. Our kids, the girls that play softball, our boys that play Little League Baseball, these programs. And then to come back to the ones when this program leaves that are still influencing our kids and continue to build our kids up. And the other part of this is to make sure that these people that took the program this year are held accountable